Well, as we've repeatedly noted on this show, the left refuses to live up to its own standards most of the time. But now, suddenly, for once, they are. For decades, the Democratic Party has imposed the precepts of identity politics on the rest of us. They made it the norm to reward some people and punish other people purely on the basis of their sex, their skin color, their perceived ranking in some imaginary hierarchy of privilege. They've made it so questioning any of this is a social crime. Ask questions about it or disagree, and you may be silenced or censored or fired from your job. In case you haven't noticed, they're turning the society into a humorless PC hellhole. But at least now they are applying the same standards to their own presidential candidates. With almost 20 people in the race, Democrats could be having a pretty interesting conversation about different policy ideas. It's interesting to hear people disagree. But they don't. They agree on virtually everything, and they attack each other almost exclusively on issues of identity. Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper recently entered the race, and last night, because he's a man, he was interrogated about whether he'd select a woman as his vice presidential candidate. Watch.
Governor, some of your male competitors have vowed to put a woman on the ticket. Yes or no? Would you do the same?
Well, again, of course. But how come we're not asking more often the women, would you be willing to put a man on the ticket?
Ooh, they hissed at him. It was a big mistake. Of course, Hickenlooper immediately genuflected to the new religious orthodoxy, but he wasn't enthusiastic enough about doing it. He was insufficiently self-hating, and that's a crime. He's a heretic. And media inquisitors soon demanded that Hickenlooper burn.
John Hickenlooper's answer about the possibility of a female running mate sparking backlash.
I don't know what the heck he was talking about. There are a lot of Democrats who feel that women haven't been given their just due. So when Hickenlooper says things like that, he's basically dismissing those concerns.
Craig, I don't even know how to reply to that. I mean, 45 presidents have been men. I mean, I think that speaks for itself.
I think it's just one of those answers that you really groan at. I certainly did when I saw it. I think I'm going to send Governor Hickenlooper a copy of those placemats with all the president's faces on them that are all men.
Wow. Those are the kind of people who win Cronkite Awards. But Hickenlooper isn't the only candidate being accused of bearing tainted blood. Former Florida gubernatorial candidate Andrew Gillum just accused Beto O'Rourke of enjoying a, quote, set of privilege other candidates lack, meaning he's white. Politico magazine, looking at Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden, has asked, quote, how does a straight man run for president? Kamala Harris has had her racial credibility called into question since her mother is not black and she married a white man, so she's not right, they say. In other words, even Democratic presidential candidates are not safe from the mob. It's hard to feel too bad about it, though. They brought this on themselves, obviously. Robert Patillo is an attorney and talk show host, and he joins us tonight. So I have to say, part of me is disgusted by this. Part of me is amused by it. But wouldn't it just be better to have a debate about what people believe, how to make the country better, rather than sniping at each other because of qualities people can't control?
Well, Tucker, what you have to understand is diversity, inclusion, and representation that are not the same thing as identity politics, as you put it. You have to understand America is 51% female. So, of course, that percentage of the population wants somebody in power who reflects them, reflects their needs, reflects their values. Just here in Georgia and other states, we've had men voting on women's reproductive rights. We have men making decisions on women's health care decisions. We have to create a country where everybody has a place at the table. The Republican Party has become a party of madmen. Hold on. Modern family country.
So men shouldn't be able to weigh in on abortion. Should women be able to weigh in on prostate surgery? Well, this is so stupid that it's kind of hard to have the conversation, but just for fun, let's try it. So we spend a lot of money subsidizing prostate surgery. Wait, hold on. Should female members of Congress get to vote on that, or do they just not get it? I mean, do you see how this is a dead end, kind of?
Tucker, what you have to understand is when you're dealing with people where since the inception of this country, we've never had a female either president or vice president, the idea of giving them representation, giving them a voice, giving them a seat at the table should not be seen as identity politics, but it should be seen as catching up with the times.
Okay,
think about
hiring
Margaret Thatcher.
someone, hold on,
think about
look,
all the females.
I'm not making
think
an
about
argument,
Angela Merkel.
Okay, but Angela Merkel is probably the worst leader Germany's had in, a couple of generations at least. So I don't think it's a very good example, but it doesn't detract from all women. She's just a bad leader. And that's kind of the point I'm making. Maybe we should hire the most qualified person, or is that sexist to say it? male or female.
No, that is exactly the point, that we're hiring the most qualified person, but we're no longer using someone's gender as an immediate veto to take them out of the race. This isn't like John McCain picking Sarah Palin, who had absolutely no qualification to be vice president. These are completely competent and vetted women who were saying that they need to have a seat at the table and not simply be shut out.
It's just so funny. I just love watching, like, and I'm not attacking you, but I mean, just watching all these liberal men who have, I'm sure, totally primitive attitudes in private, sort of berating themselves and doing the kind of "I'm a feminist too" routine. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm more sensitive than you are kind of thing. Does that get old ever? Do you ever feel like saying, I just kind of want to say what I think, and maybe I should stop being intimidated by the people who control our language and thoughts? Do you ever kind of want to break out and just be honest once in a while, or no? Does that never happen?
Well, Tucker, the good thing is I'm always honest. That's the best thing about me, that you don't have to worry about that. And I think that's part of the problem the Democrats had in 2016, that by being too PC, too reflexive, they let somebody like Trump come in and take up that, what I call the shadow MAGA, the people who never wear a MAGA hat, who never go to a rally, will never say they support Trump, but they'll go into the booth and vote for him, because when he said grab them by the you-know-what, they laughed, and they said, that's the kind of guy I can have a beer with. And that's what they went into the voting booth.
I'm just fascinated by this. Would you say, since you're always honest, would you describe yourself as a pretty big feminist?
Oh, hell no. No, not at all. Not in the slightest. Oh. But I do respect women's rights and women's ability to lead and to represent. But I don't think you have to put a label on it, because with labels comes all the baggage of the entire movement.
Well, there's nothing embarrassing about being a big feminist. I thought you were. Well, I'm not judging you either way.
Knew I wasn't.
Good luck with that. Now that you've said you're not a feminist, I don't know if they're going to let you back into the Democratic Club, but we'll see. Robert, thanks very much for coming on. Good to see you.
Thanks, Tucker.
Author and columnist and noted feminist Mark Steyn joins us tonight. So how amusing do you find it, Mark, to see the Democrats eating each other on the basis of identity politics standards?
Well, I love it. To use that line that we've just been hearing about everyone wants a seat at the table so they can stick a fork in the other guy. That's basically the reason. By the way, just to clear up your thing about shouldn't men then only have a say about prostate cancer, I was reading a newspaper in Canada last week about a woman who died of prostate cancer. So it is totally transphobic of you for you to imply that prostate cancer is anything to do with men, just as it is totally transphobic to imply that abortion is anything to do with women. And that's the lesson here. No matter how woke you are, you can be out woke by the next guy in the Democrat nominating process. I mean, basically, Hickenlooper doesn't get it. He made the same mistake as, I think it was Martin O'Malley saying, all lives matter, or whatever it was 4 years ago. Instead of Black Lives Matter, he said all lives matter. Hickenlooper's got it wrong here, because it's not about should a woman put a man on the ticket. You're asked the question, will you put a woman on the ticket, to show how far you're prepared to abase yourself and mitigate the hideousness of your white maleness. And now, if you're like Beto, you're basically a rich, white, middle-aged guy, but you pretend to be some Hispanic skateboarding 12-year-old, and all the Democrats go, "Oh wow, this is so new. It's so different. He's the first Hispanic middle schooler to run for president. This is incredible." But if you're not, then you have to abase yourself by saying, like, Joe Biden is going to put a black woman on the ticket. He said he's going to put Stacey Abrams on the ticket. Hickenlooper has so damaged himself, he would have to put some an Hispanic transgender woman. It won't be enough just to put a woman on the ticket. He'll have to move it into the next thing. This is where identity politics leads. But it's the point about white male, mitigation of your white male hideousness that is actually
totally
at the core of it.
But your point that saying that abortion is just a women's issue, that's transphobic. I agree with you completely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I intend to make that point consistently on this show.
Absolutely.
Mark Steyn, you're a genius. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Tucker. Great to be with you.